Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here and I'm back again with a brand new video. So before I begin this one, I want to thank you all so much for watching. If this is your first time, don't make it your last. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, and if you found this video useful, leave a thumbs up. So with that being said, today we're going to be reviewing the camera on the Motorola Razr 2023. And remember, this is a $499 phone if you get it on sale, which is on sale right now. I'll leave a couple of links in the description. But basically, we're going to talk about the specs, we're going to talk about the camera experience, picture quality, video quality, and go from there. So beginning with the camera specs, we have two main sensors. We have a 64 megapixel f1.7 aperture standard sensor, and you also have your 13 megapixel ultra wide sensor at f2.2 aperture. And one of the things that I appreciate about this camera design in general is the fact that this is a really thin device and there's not a big camera hump. So that does raise a couple of concerns, which I will discuss in the photo quality and the video quality of this phone. But just look at how thin this camera sensor is. I mean, it's just, for a 64 megapixel sensor, this is not bad at all. I mean, there's a slight hump, but nothing too drastic. And one of the things that I like about Motorola's cameras in general is the way to launch them. So in a classic Motorola fashion, all you have to do is just shake the phone or wiggle the phone twice and you will get your camera that quick. So taking pictures on this phone is quick, easy, and the camera interface itself is very simplistic, straight to the point. Now, it's almost too simple. I wish there was just a little bit more control over the settings. So what I mean by that is that the options are kind of limited in a way. So if you go to where it says external display or AI settings or your photo settings or even video settings, it would show you, hey, efficient videos or high resolution videos. It doesn't show you any specifics, which I wish they would just fix that in a software update. Even the photos, you can have like standard or high res photos, which will launch the 64 megapixels. But yeah, the settings I feel like could be a little bit better laid out and better worded in my opinion. But if you look at the top as well, you will see a couple of options, one of which the ability to change between your 4K recording or your 1080p, your 30 frames per second, or if you go to 1080p, you can record at a higher frame rate. And even the fact that you can change your aspect ratio and turn on the image stabilization when recording video, which we will definitely test out and take a look at later on in this video. But overall though, as kind of a camera interface, it's acceptable for the average consumer. I think most people would be fine with the way this camera operates and the interface of it. So it takes pictures really quick, it takes videos really quick. The transition between the main sensor and the wide angle sensor is pretty good, pretty decent. Sometimes it does lag, so I do have to mention that, but for the most part it works well. And as far as HDR, for whatever reason, you can either turn it on auto HDR or off. I haven't found a setting where you can just keep the HDR on all the time. If you guys can help me out with that, just leave it in the comments below. So now let's go ahead and discuss the image quality and the video quality. Beginning with the picture quality itself, here's what I have to say about it. So for the first pictures will kind of show you what this phone is all about. So in kind of cloudy conditions and not good lighting, this phone does struggle. It struggles in exposure, it struggles in details, it struggles in giving you a quality picture. But this next picture kind of does a little bit better. So one of the things that I kind of struggled with here is the autofocus. It's a hit or miss sometimes. In other times, it actually does really well. But in better will-lit situations, this camera can perform fairly decent, better than you would expect. But again, the autofocus issue is still apparent and there's slight overexposure in some pictures. So if we actually zoom in on some parts of this photo, you will see that it kind of missed focus. It didn't really focus entirely on the subject that I wanted to focus on. But listen, overall though, as far as colors go, they're decent in some scenarios, bad in other scenarios. So this picture here, I feel like it's missing a little bit of saturation and a little bit more detail. But for the most part, I have to say this though, so I can be fair, it does a decent job. When it comes to detail, the 64 megapixel does a really good job, especially just mind you that you do have to turn on that 64 megapixel option. If you keep it at the standard option that it comes in out of the box, it will shoot at 12 megapixels. So you will not really be taking full advantage of that 64 megapixel sensor. So it gives you a fair amount of detail, sharpness, and things like that. They're pretty good. But again, at the end of the day, when it comes to the color itself, it can be a little bit dull. It's not as aggressive or as good as I would like it to be. And if you zoom in on a couple of subjects, like if you take this sign for example, you will see that it's slightly brighter than you would want it to be. And if you zoom in and try to use that macro sensor, you will see that you will get a little bit more detail if you use the macro sensor, but it's a good picture. It's not a perfect picture. The colors can be also lackluster. Like I said, it just depends on the scenario. This camera is really a hit or miss. In some scenarios, it does a pretty good job in the color. In other scenarios, it just gives you kind of a dull, not vibrant, not saturated picture. I'm not really trying to beat this camera up too much just because I know the main really qualities of this phone is not really the camera. But I just have to be fair since this is at the end of the day a camera review. In artificial light, this camera does a poor job just because it's using artificial light, not natural light. So the colors are just not really that good overall. But overall, listen, as kind of a camera, when it comes to taking pictures, it does a decent job. It's not really gonna compete with phones at the same price point that are meant to take better pictures. And moving on to low light, it just struggles a little bit more. So it's the pictures when it comes to low light are grainy. In some scenarios they are blurry and they lackluster a lot of things like detail, sharpness, and things like that. But that's to be expected in low light scenarios. This is not the camera to use for low light photography. So when it comes to the selfie camera, you do get a 32 megapixel standard selfie camera, but what I found myself using is the secondary display on the back of this phone to kind of take my selfies, just because you get a much better result. So here, take this for example. The first picture will show you the main sensor, which is the 64 megapixel sensor. If you transition, you will see that the second picture uses the 32 megapixels, which lackluster a lot of things, so it's not as good as the main sensor. So as far as the video quality, I want you guys to watch the sample video and I'll talk to you guys a little bit about the video quality and we'll end it in a conclusion. Hey, what's up guys, TechTine here, and this is the camera test or the video test of the Motorola Razr 2023 model. And from my experience, honestly, with great lighting, you can get some decent video out of this phone, and you can obviously just do some little post editing and you'll be fine. But I mean, as far as the capability of this phone, it's fine. It's not gonna shoot the greatest video in the world when, you know, with moving subjects and stuff, because it can get a little bit choppy, but the autofocus seems to be decent. And yeah, that's the story behind this camera. You can zoom in, but you can't use the ultra wide while shooting video, which I wish you could, but it is what it is at that point. So as far as the video quality goes, how do I say this? I would say that under good lighting, it's good, just not consistent. But when you move on to bad lighting, that's when you're gonna have more issues with the video capability. And for whatever reason, I found when you're trying to shoot videos on the viewfinder itself, I found it to be a little bit choppy. I don't know what's up with that. Hopefully Motorola can fix that with a software update. But for the most part, as far as the video quality, it was decent, just lackluster in kind of the shutter speed and the kind of just lack of consistency when it comes to colors. So in one scenario, and you guys saw this, when I was trying to zoom in on a subject, it just alternated the whole quality of the video. So it went from this kind of colorful, showing nice colors and things like that, to where when you zoom in, it just ruined the video. So I don't know what's up with that. Hopefully with a software update these things can be fixed, but until then, that's just what you get with the video quality of this phone. With that being said, I mean, at the end of the day, this phone is not really meant to be kind of a camera focused device. It's meant for other things, but it does give you a overall decent camera. It's not really going to be a good camera. So if you're trying to buy this phone just for the camera, I would go look elsewhere. I would look at the Pixel side of things and the higher end Galaxy side of things. But if you want kind of the flip device and you want to get in the foldable world, then this phone I would say is for you. I want to thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Thank you so much for watching.